on the back of that chair, if you will, please. Take it right off.
Guiding the subject was the experimenter in the lab coat, who acted as the legitimate authority in the situation. Both the experimenter and the man being tested as the learner were part of Milgram's team. And how was the subject supposed to help the learner improve his memory? By delivering electric shocks as punishment for every mistake.
This machine generates electric shocks. When you press one of the switches all the way down, the learner gets a shock.
The shocks began as mild, but they had to be increased with each era until they were potentially lethal. Although no shocks were actually given, the teacher subject was made to think he was punishing the learner.
Let me out of here. You have no right to keep me here. Let me out. Let me out of here. Let me out.
Continue, please.
Let me out of here. My eyes bother me.
Go on.
Let me out.
Red. That is incorrect. This will be at 3:30. The correct phrase is rich boy.
Let me out of here. My eyes bother me. Let me out, I tell you. Let me out of here. Let me out of here. You have no right to hold me here.
The next phrase is fast.
Let me out. Let me out. Let me out of here. Let me
Bird,
out.
car, train, plane.
Continue, teacher.
What would you do in this situation? Would you continue?
That is incorrect. This will be 3:45. The correct answer is fast, bird. The next one, blunt.
At the time, 40 experts were asked to predict the performance of the subjects. They estimated that most would not go beyond 150 volts, and only 1 in 1,000, the sadists, would go all the way to 450 volts. In fact, 2/3 of the subjects went all the way. While many of them objected, the majority did not disobey. I asked Stanley Milgram how many of the subjects who quit the experiment ever got up to help the learner without first getting the experimenter's permission. He said, not one, not ever. So blind obedience is not limited to the fascist mentality. It's part of the basic human condition, brought out by situational forces. Hundreds and hundreds of subjects obeyed the experimenter, men and women, young and old. As the author C.P. Snow wrote, when you think of the long and gloomy history of man, you'll find more hideous crimes have been committed in the name of obedience than have been committed in the name of rebellion. Whenever we try to understand some unusual aspect of human behavior, like that of the Nazi guards or the subjects in the obedience experiment, we typically explain it in terms of personal traits without sufficiently considering the impact of the situation. This dual tendency to attribute the causes of behavior to personal factors while underestimating the effects of the situation is known as the fundamental attribution error. We all make the fundamental attribution error, in part because our culture emphasizes individual accomplishments, and in part because we have difficulty admitting how easily we ourselves can be manipulated by situational forces. Just consider the strange case of the Stanford University jail, which once stood here in the basement of the psychology building. It was part of an unusual experiment on the psychology of imprisonment that my colleagues Craig Haney, Kurt Banks, Carlo Prescott, and I conducted in the early 70s. We wanted to see just what happens when you put good people in a bad situation. In this case, in jail. Each of the students who volunteered for our study was carefully tested. Each had to be psychologically and physically healthy to participate. A small group of students was then randomly selected to act as prisoners, while others became guards. We surprised the prisoners by having them arrested at their homes and dormitories. At the jail, uniforms and status symbols, rules, and other details helped distinguish between the two groups, which were indistinguishable at the start. The prisoners underwent a series of rituals to establish their new lowly status. They lived in tiny cells. They spent 24 hours a day here, cut off from their usual surroundings.
What is happening to prisoner 819?
Prisoner 819 is being punished, Mr. Correctional Officer.
Let's hear it 5 times. Make sure you remember it.
Prisoner 819 is being punished, Mr. Correctional Officer.
Down. Up. Down.
The guards, however, only worked 8-hour shifts and returned to their normal routines as students when off the job.
Up. 5, 4, 8, 6. These are belly rolls. These are push-ups. Keep that back straight. Down.
What happened surprised everyone, including me. The illusion became the reality. The boundary between the role each person was playing and his real personal identity was erased.
Goodbye, Mr. Correctional Officer.
Keep it straight.
Nice boys became brutal guards. Healthy kids got sick.
Get in that class then. You don't eat, you're not going to hurt your energy 416.
Active ones became passive and zombie-like prisoners.
This is unbelievable. They took our clothes.
Hands off the door.
They took our bed.
Hands off the door. Get your hands.
Get up.
The situation became so overpowering that many of the prisoners developed extreme stress reactions and had to be released.
Take their bed and your clothes and prison.
But no one ever said, I quit the experiment. They had lost all perspective.
You come over there. Should I act it out, Mr. Correctional Officer? You should act it out. You be the bride of Frankenstein, and you be Frankenstein. I want you to walk over here like Frankenstein and say that you love 209 people.
What kind of guard would you be? Sadistic or supportive? Would you be a conforming prisoner or a heroic resistor? The prison study, like Milgram's experiment, is not typical of research in social psychology. Some psychologists feel both studies violated ethical guidelines and should never have been done.
Push up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Now you go over there and tell 546 that you love him.
I love you.
Well, ain't that sweet?
You smile?
Ain't that sweet?
At times, even I forgot I was an experimenter and acted like a prison warden.
So I can lock the art.
And so we were forced to call off what was planned as a 2-week experiment after only 6 days. How could such basically good people have done such terrible things? It's because we all have the capacity for evil and good, waiting for the right or wrong situation to bring it out. And when the situation ends, we return to our old selves again. Extensive follow-ups done over many years fail to reveal any negative long-term effects on the subjects in the prison study. If anything, many subjects said it was a positive learning experience. They had seen a side of themselves they had never thought possible.
Once you put a uniform on and are given a role, a job, saying your job is to keep these people in line, then you're certainly not the same person as if you were in street clothes and in a different role. You really become that person once you put on that khaki uniform, you put on the glasses, you take the nightstick, and you act the part. That's your costume, and you have to act accordingly when you put it on.
It still is a prison to me. I don't look